All right, quick video this time. I am, the last time we left off with the, let me bring it up. So we left off here with this login button. So what I've done is I've basically completed that control, and I wanted to review how I did that because it's one of those real world sort of component design type issues. So if you look at this functionality, when the person first gets into the site, they log in, and then the icon converts to a log out. And when they log out, it converts back into a login. So it is aware of the current state and it deals accordingly. Now, obviously, there's multiple ways to architect something like this. So one of them is you could just make a single monolithic component and just have basically all of the logic in there. And I decided against doing something like that. Last time in the login modal component, I was talking about how I was gonna move the local state into the parent component, and I decided that in the case of a component like this, which is sort of freestanding, in other words, this really could live inside of any other component and be reused multiple times because it is a modal. So I decided to keep its own local state. So that's one thing. And then I decided to separate the login modal from the log out modal. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that this is always the right way to do it. It's just the way that I decided on because I like separation of concerns and single responsibility. So then, what decides which icon is going to appear, right? So then I decided also to separate out that logic into its own component as well. So this component is going to do a query to see whether or not the user is logged in. And then depending on whether they are logged in or not, it's going to send the appropriate component back. And that's how the decision of which component or which icon to show is handled. Another sort of interesting thing is if you look at the login icon, you can see that the icon is right here, but the entire component has the modal with the username and password inputs as well. So then if you're new to React, you might be wondering how, or why, why would I want to be doing something like that? So, or maybe that doesn't seem to make all that much sense because here, visually, the component is just that one icon. And this again is that desktop nav bar right here. So this component although currently is just showing the icon only, with HTML and CSS, you can put any number of controls and embed them in a specific position, here, there, wherever you want, and you can make them invisible by using things like display none, or making their dimensions all 0, or making their opacity 0, or whatever, any number of ways. And then when it comes time to display, you can have it display, anywhere you want. So I'm taking advantage of that capability. For me, because I'm using Ion Modal, that whole showing and hiding and I think there's a yeah, the animation as well is handled for me, so I don't have to write the code by the Ion Modal as part of Ionic. So I didn't have to write the code, but nevertheless, the HTML and the CSS that they wrote is doing, the same stuff that I was talking about, animating the opacity, the control, the HTML controls themselves show up, but until they're actually utilized, they're not going to show up, right? So that's why this looks a little bit peculiar, again, if maybe you're new to React. The other thing is, you notice when I click this button, I get the animation with the progress indicator. So that is done by having the button there. Let me just get where is it? So what I decided to do is I decided to make it a component of its own, because I'm going to be sort of having a progress indicator button in multiple places in the app. So I decided to make that a component as well. So if you look at it, what's going on is you have a regular Ion button, and I also have built-in enabling and disabling so that they can't, multi-click it, whatever it is that they're trying to do. In this case, it's login, but in other areas, it might be something else. But anyway, so the regular button is there, but then I have a spinner that, based upon the state, I'm going to either not show a spinner, which is the current state right here, or I am going to show the spinner. And again, this is all part of React functionality, and that cloudy look is part of being disabled. So that's where that is coming from. And all of this client-side code, I'm going to be showing you the link in the description for my GitHub. So that's the gist of the component. And then, as you may recall from last time, this is a progressive app. So I'm going to have these things here. I got to fix this look and feel, but basically, if it's desktop mode, there's not going to be a label shown. But then if it's mobile, there will be a label shown. So that's, again, built into the component, and once again, based on the this label is being shown or not shown based upon the orientation. So I decided also to make that a component as well. So in the case of the orientation being of the mobile portrait, then it's going to show up. If it's not, then it's not going to show up right here. This logic is just whether or not I want styling, which in this case I'm sending, but it's optional based upon the optional tag. And in addition to that, I had to add a new function for logging out. It's the logout query. So because I am using Vertex sessions, I'm just setting the user back to null. And then if I complete successfully, I return true. So that's it. Super quick video. But these kinds of ideas or patterns are really useful for a lot of different things, a lot of different scenarios, not just desktop versus mobile, but you'll have many other scenarios where a single component has to basically handle two or more different states, whether that be look and feel or some logical state. So this is just one option of being able to do that, where you have good separation of concerns, even to the decision maker of, you know, which component or which icon is going to be shown. Okay, and again, all of this stuff is trying to rebuild and reconstruct the functionality in DZ Haven, which is currently written in Node. So if I swing this back, you can see this is already there. So I'm rebuilding all of this using Ionic on the client side with React, and then the Vertex for better performance on the server side with GraphQL. Okay, that's it.